everyone, it's Rebecca here from Eat Happy, and today I am delighted to be talking to the wonderful Sarah Nicole. Sarah runs a fantastic Instagram account called The Birds Papaya, so please go and check it out if you haven't done so already, because it is a fantastic place to go for inspiration, body positivity, and everything to do with loving yourself and confidence. Hi Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
So if you wouldn't mind maybe explaining a little bit more about the Bird's Papaya and how you got started with it, I'd really like to know a little bit about how it all began.
It's a pretty funny story. So about 10 years ago, I was a stay-at-home mom and I was just needing a creative outlet of some sort, and I decided to start a blog. So it was all kind of around just being on a one income lifestyle and being really frugal. And then expanding from that, I started an Etsy shop as well. And it was all named after my two daughters. I only had two kids at the time. I have three now, after their two nicknames. So Gemma Birdie and Maya Papaya, which is just little rhyming words. And it kind of just stuck. There was a couple times over the years that I thought I would change it, but people have just known me for so long as the Birds of Papaya that I don't even know how to not be that anymore. So yeah, I kind of carried it over onto Instagram just as a personal account, and slowly but surely gained a bit of a following, especially over my weight loss story. I had lost 100 pounds by changing my relationship with food and working out at home. And that's kind of what started my Instagram growth. But then in the last year, it kind of pivoted for me once I had to really start engaging a different type of voice to it, because I was finding the weight loss stuff was very unhealthy for me to be constantly hearing and talking about, because I, when going through a divorce, ended up being far underweight and people were congratulating me constantly on my body. I was so unhealthy, and I really woke up to how fearful I was to gain weight, to be, even though that was healthy, and some of the major changes when it came to food and stuff as well. So it's been a really interesting kind of journal of my life between, being overweight and being a stay-at-home mom with these three kids, going through a divorce, losing this weight. I am now remarried. I've got my three kids are all now preteen, which is wild. And yeah, it's kind of just been a bit of a journal.
All right, yeah, so it wasn't always actually about body positivity and what you're maybe more known for now. Your Instagram actually captures your journey.
And it's so funny because I could really, if I go back and read some of my older posts, I'll cringe like crazy about some of this stuff. But I really want that to stay there because I want people to understand that there is a bit of a progression. I think a lot of people in the body positive space often have landed there, but you don't always see the full progression of like them coming through a major weight loss or really big insecurities and stuff like that. And if you go back, I will often have to filter myself from that and say, I was definitely really overworking my editing here, or I was definitely hiding some major insecurities. And even though I was losing weight, I was not really identifying a lot of the health issues with that, or how potentially on the line of an eating disorder that I had kind of developed. I've never been diagnosed with one, so I don't want to like label that on myself, but definitely I went from kind of like food addiction to food fear. And then now I'm kind of like in that balance of understanding food as more of a partner with your body, and how unique it is for each of us, and how everyone can eat a totally different diet or even the same thing and have totally different impacts. So I kind of stepped away from overly sharing about weight loss and my journey with it, because I was really understanding that I was still really learning how flawed that can be. And I was really understanding how crappy I was feeling in gaining weight. And I started to just take a step back and focus on what was really important, which was my mental health and really connecting with my body that didn't identify with a number or a size. And once I hit that, it was just like gates open. I couldn't believe it, because even after losing over 100 pounds, I was so insecure. So it really just woke me up. Like, how could you lose 100 pounds and be so insecure? That was supposed to be the problem solver. So once I came through that and got to kind of see the other side, it really helped me kind of get to where I am now, which is yeah, I guess accidentally body positive, but I'm really proud of it. So it's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure so many people will resonate with what you've just said, and that includes me. And actually, I had a similar sort of thing where I did lose quite a lot of weight, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought I would be automatically confident just because I was slimmer. But of course, the work that I really had to do is actually the work that I teach now with Eat Happy, and that is really getting my mindset in the right place.
I think there's such an external focus, and it seems to be what we complement each other on. I now understand so much that when you see somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, like, have you lost weight? You look amazing. We have no idea what's going on with them. So when people were congratulating me on my weight, they had no idea that I was underweight. I was very unhealthy and I was going through a divorce very privately. So I was getting all these congratulations and I was the most unhealthy I've ever been. So, it really started to connect for me that it is a lot more internal than it is external. And all the external stuff is kind of a side effect of everything that's going on the outside sometimes too. And if I could go back, I would love to lose weight without focusing on the scale, without focusing on the numbers, and just truly understanding mind, body, soul, the connecting pieces between them, and having that weight loss be more of a side effect instead of a focus.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so true, but it's hard. I mean, I was the same way. I lost the weight, and then didn't really even like myself then. And I guess that is really because at the end of the day, the truth was that I didn't really like myself anyway. So yeah, that is the work, isn't it? That we have to do that work. We have to like ourselves anyway.
Absolutely. And also that over perfectionist mentality of when even when you've lost all that weight, you suddenly start to look at parts of your body that weren't even a concern before, and suddenly you hate them. They're
Yeah.
now the new focus. They're now the new target. So for me, it was like I lost all this weight, but I was like, oh my gosh, I need a tummy tuck. I'm going to need a boob job. I'm going to need a butt lift. I'm going to need this. And there's no, I actually am not against plastic surgery. I feel like that's a very personal choice for people, but it's really got to come from a place that you're not, it's not a refinement process. And in terms of like making your body continually fit into this mold, I really felt like I was unworthy of anybody really like seeing my body and like appreciating it. Instead, I was just trying to perfect it as much as possible in any means possible. So I had full plans to just go under a massive reconstruction. And while that would have been fine because it was my choice to do so, at the end of the day, I decided not to because I decided to give myself a little bit of a trial run of just coming to accept my body. And a lot of that came from following really inspiring women on like social media, really changed that. Once I was able to see kind of that beauty in another person, I was able to start to mirror it onto myself. So I started unfollowing accounts that made me feel like crap, followed a lot of ones that made me feel good about myself. And surprisingly enough, I was offered a tummy tuck for free. And then I turned it down because I was
Wow.
like, I'm actually really okay. Like, I never thought I would say this because that was like my hurdle is like, how am I going to get the money to do this? And it just shocked me. And I think that that was a really powerful moment for my own journey. And yeah, like my own mother has lost a bunch of weight and she had a tummy tuck herself. And it was I felt so proud for her because it was such a freeing moment. She had been overweight for a really long time and had an overhang of like that was causing rashes and stuff like that. Like it truly freed her in more ways than one. So that's why I'm really against like judging people for their personal body choices. But it was really a huge moment in my own that I was able to just actually love the body I was in pretty much for the first time ever, which was and I'm not at my thinnest. And I think that that kind of said something to me. So that's kind of been where I've been right now.
Wow, that's incredible. It's very, very powerful what you just said. So, when you look at your Instagram account, it is undeniable that you are both beautiful and very confident. And I can see that you have really worked to get that confidence. Like you said, the social media accounts that you follow, ones that you find positive. But is there anything else that you do? How do you basically keep or practice this level of body positivity?
Yeah, there's definitely that, but there's also just really oftentimes I will have these really negative thoughts. And I think we all do. We have that
Oh yeah.
moment where we look in the mirror or something doesn't fit right and we're just like feeling like a sack of potatoes. And I kind of consider that the mental bully. There is like that internal voice that wants to rip us down, and the ability that we have to shut it off and walk away. Sometimes that means like turning away from social media for a bit. Sometimes that means walking away from the mirror and just like getting that refresh point of view. But not staying there, not really sitting with it, not really allowing it that same grip. If my kids were getting bullied, a lot of times that they talk about like, don't fight back, just walk away. And so it's kind of that same thing. Whenever I get those like really negative thoughts that start to come in, or that self-doubt, I just remind myself like, I'm still in control here. I can walk away from this thought even if it's within my own mind. I'm still in control. These are not true things. They are not lies, like, or they're lies and they're not my truth. Like, I'm not unworthy because I have a little bit of cellulite. I'm not unworthy because I have stretch marks going up to my ribs. I'm actually incredibly proud of those now because I see them for what they are and not for what they are not. I don't have this perfect smooth skin of a belly, but I have 3 beautiful children that I grew inside of my own body, and I lost a lot of weight through a really significant like portion of my life. And these are all marks of that. They're kind of like marks of my journey, and I'm kind of tired of just hating on them. So it's definitely like a mental choice sometimes, but I will be completely honest with you, following those accounts and having those like daily reminders of like how not alone we are. I think in media, the images that were shown all the time, and it is changing, but the images that were shown on a constant basis are not a true reality. Or for some they might be, but it's not the majority. And so for most of us, we feel very isolated and very alone. We stop going to the beach, we stop wanting to like be intimate with our husbands, and all of these different things that make us feel incredibly insecure and vulnerable. And when you kind of embrace those things, you realize that like I never would in a million years expect that I wouldn't even take my t-shirt off when swimming, and now I'm just like in my underwear all over Instagram like every week. Like, we have such growth for that, and I'm not even afraid of it anymore. It used to be a really terrifying thing, and I think that's the power of social media and connection, and just connecting with other humans.
Well, myself and many others are very glad that you are confident and happy enough to do that, because then you are also a part of that positive social media movement. So now we get to enjoy your pictures, and that, it's so brilliant. You've actually really helped me as well to see your images, and everything that you write as well is very, very powerful. And I really like affirmations. They're a big part of the work that I do as well, and I personally found them very powerful. But do you practice any affirmations, or do you now keep a tabs on positive and your negative self-talk?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of there now. I think there were a lot of days that it was a little bit of a fake it till you make it, where you're just looking in the mirror and being like, you're beautiful and you're worthy. And they're like, okay, yeah, uh-huh. And then eventually you're just like walking past the mirror, and it's not, I have this like big leaner mirror that goes between my bed and my bathroom. So this happens a lot, like every time I'm changing, anytime. And it's just been really interesting how suddenly I can look in the mirror, and all of those little hang up things I think are kind of cute. I think they're kind of powerful. It's an amazing connecting factor. I was actually at this photo shoot once, and I was so almost mortified to be there. It was the most vulnerable I'd ever felt. And there was 5 of us women that were shooting in our underwear for Nixwear. And there was like one who was a professional model, and she was just like beyond perfect. And we all kind of like take our ropes off, and we're standing there, and we're kind of like feeling it, like feeling that uncomfortableness of it all. And by the end of the day, it was fascinating because it wasn't how perfect she was compared to me or anything like that. It was, holy crap, you started to really fall in love with the imperfect image. You started to fall in love with, those little rolls and those little bits of cellulite. And we started to really see them in each other. And it was like this beautiful bonding moment between women in our underwear. And I always kind of remember that when I'm walking past the mirror too, is that everybody has this. Everybody has these moments, and everybody has their things. And when we walk past the mirror and we kind of own them, they stop owning us. And that is really quite a huge thing. Like, when you start to stand with like your shoulders back, there's nothing better than confidence. Like, when you have confidence in what your body is, nobody can come at you anymore. It doesn't, like, when people come and like make fun of you or they say something crappy, you just kind of laugh like, what a sad state of mind you must have. I feel great. And you just move on, as opposed to it being incredibly crippling, which I think for the most part, when we're having a lot of self-doubt and struggling with that on the inside, the second anybody comes along and says something that reinforces it, it can just take us out at the knees.
Ugh, yeah, self-doubt. Self-doubt is no fun. Yeah, so what you're saying then is that you are taking a step away from actively disliking yourself and then towards acceptance, and actually that's a big part of the Eat Happy method. Then it's towards liking yourself, and then what you're saying is that final step is to wholeheartedly love yourself, actually.
Totally. I think you said that a lot better than I did. But yeah, that's exactly right.
Thank you, but I did see that line in my mind. I just saw it from one state of feeling towards that acceptance. But sometimes in my mind, being a little bit practical, I sometimes think, yeah, I could pay to get this changed, or I could work to change something else about myself. But I really do wonder, at the end of the day, is it actually going to make any difference? I mean, are people really going to treat me that different? I wonder,
And if people treated you differently, do you want those people in your life? Like
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
that part too, where now I'm like, no, if somebody like I used to feel like ashamed of myself so much that it felt like I was so indebted to anybody who was like in my life or giving me attention or anything like that. And now I'm like, no, you're lucky. Like, good for you. You are blessed with my presence. No, that sounds really bad. But that's how I feel sometimes. It's like, we are blessing, like everyone blesses each other with their presence, and it's not for us to kind of come along and judge each other. We can kind of, if we take away from what that person is offering us all the time in such a selfish sense and really just owning that space and connecting. Like when I take a look, my husband was a huge factor in this because he never comments on my body, like ever. And he met me when I was at my thinnest. So it was a little bit of a weird thing when I started to gain weight. I felt like, is he going to say something? Is he going to feel something? And he never did. And he never does. He never comments on my body except for just to say that I'm beautiful and that he loves me. And it's such a refreshing thing. But it also really made me wake up to the fact that, like, I don't like what would be considered the perfect male body. When I see like everything in ads, that's not the kind of guy that I would go for. I like guys who have like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I'm so attracted to like their soul and their humor. And, my husband has like, quote unquote, a bit of a dad bod, and I'm obsessed with it. That's what I'm so attracted to. Yet I discounted him being able to be attracted to me because I felt so flawed. So it kind of teaches you like some of these things, like when you realize like, okay, yeah, I could have this like ripped guy or whatever, but I don't even want that. So why do I want to be like this out of the box person that I'm not for other people to like me, when I feel like that you attract the right people in your life? And sometimes when you come along, my sister always talks about the fact that like when you're pregnant, everybody opens doors for you and you're just like this glowing wonder. Everybody is so kind to you and sweet and stop you. And then you have a baby and you're carrying it and you've got all these bags and stuff like that, and doors are just like slamming in your face. You're the same person, but the perspective of the others has changed. And sometimes, but the right people hold the door open. The right people are there to help you. And like the true people that should be in your life, they're the people that are worth giving that to. So, it's all kind of perspective, I think, when you come from one side to the other. And I felt that a little bit with like my weight loss too. There was a lot of people who went from liking me to hating me. And there were people who went from not thinking I was worth their time to suddenly wanting to be my best friend. So you kind of get a bit of perspective after all of that body change and just realize that, you know what, the right people are going to be there.
I agree, and that's really lovely to hear you say that. Okay, so I think to wrap up, I'm going to have to ask something that I think many of us really like to hear your answer on, and that is basically, how do we feel as confident as you do in your body? Because looking at your Instagram, it is clear how at home you are in your body and how comfortable you are in your skin. And so any words of advice, any tips that you can give us on how to feel that confident and how to accept ourselves, and basically how to feel good with the bodies that we have?
I think we It is that mind, body, soul. I think there always is going to be that factor of when you are living a healthier lifestyle, you're feeling healthier in the other facets of your life too. I don't eat and like track my food or track my calories or anything, but I like to eat healthy food. I know that I'm mentally at my best when I do. Same with exercise. I don't love it. I don't love it at all, but it is really good for my mental health and it is good for my physical body. So I do those things. Then on top of that, I take time for myself. I do things guilt free, make sure that I'm feeling connected with my own thoughts and not just sponging the thoughts of others all the time. And the third one is right back to what I was saying before. Just clean up your feed from accounts that you're following that are making you feel bad about yourself. And it doesn't mean that they're doing something wrong. I think that that's too much responsibility to place on other people, but we don't have to follow messages that aren't connecting with ourselves anymore. I followed a lot of fitness accounts of women that I absolutely adored, and I had to unfollow them because they gave me a bit of an obsessive nature when I had just come away from, my own experiences with diet culture and weight loss. And unfollowing them really freed me from that constant reminder of feeling inadequate. And again, they weren't doing anything wrong. It was just how I was taking it in. And then the third would just, again, just following really inspiring accounts. Find some people out there. There are so many that will connect on the same level as you, whether it's like having a mom bod or having stretch marks or cellulite, or just struggling in being thin or being overweight or being somewhere in between, and just like really kind of owning your body. I think when you see other women owning their bodies and finding beauty in that, and when you see that in them, it can really, really, really help you channel that towards yourself, because it's we always kind of see that image, that flattery. You take the Kardashians of the world and people just strive to be them, but there are also a whole slew of women that are like these everyday women that are so inspiring that you are so going to want to be like, because they just exude confidence against the cultural norms. And I think that that has been such a game changer, that we can kind of create a new cultural norm. So that's what I would say. Like, just that it's so important, just like mind, body, soul, paying attention to all three and just zoning in on what that means for you.
Oh, I love it, and I couldn't agree more. And yes, and you're a part of that. And looking at your Instagram feed is powerful, because you're a powerful person and you're so confident and you radiate this acceptance, and you show other people that it's possible. And you've definitely helped me with my body image stuff, just to see that it's okay. You can be beautiful.
Yeah,
You can love your body, like you said. You can stand up tall, and it feels so good. And Sarah, I just want to thank you so much for that. And it's been a
I
real pleasure
appreciate
talking
it.
to you.
Yeah.
So what's next for the Birds Papaya, and where can people find you if they want to follow you and find out a bit more?
Well, they should definitely come find me on Instagram. That is my wheelhouse. That's where I am the most. I story every single day and I post almost every day. It's a mixture of lifestyle and body positivity, because I am not one facet, I am many. And you can also, I do have a blog, thebirdspapaya.com, and I have the Papaya podcast, which is launching soon.
Excellent. Well, I will share all the links and people can find you and follow you. So everybody who's listening, please do go and follow Sarah. You're not going to regret it. It is extremely uplifting and positive. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.